This week on Aussie JetSetter, we're flying transcontinental across Australia on perhaps a route you may have never knew existed, yet has flown to stand the test of time for as long as I can remember. We're flying on Qantas's daily 4.5-hour flight between Australia's national capital of Canberra and the West Australian capital of Perth on its stalwart Boeing 737-800 aircraft. Along the way, we also find ourselves in a race against time, arriving on a delayed storm-ridden connecting flight, before finally experiencing a comically quiet Canberra airport and the national capital's classy Qantas business lounge. We'll then step on board where we put Qantas to the ultimate test to see how it performs in 2025 on an almost coast-to-coast narrow-body flight in terms of crew, service, entertainment, food and more, whereby I find the experience to be distinctly different. So without further ado, come join me to find out what it's like to fly on the only direct flight between Canberra and Perth, where the onboard experience may just surprise you. Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Sydney International Airport. If you're wondering why the hell I'm up here in Sydney ahead of an evening flight between the nation's capital of Canberra all the way over to the west coast in Perth, there's actually quite good reason. We actually got a very hectic travel day today. We've actually got 3 flights to take. We've actually just flown in from Nadi in Fiji, on Fiji Airways on the Airbus A350. We've arrived just after lunchtime. Really great experience today. However, it's going to be a very hectic rest of the afternoon. I've now got this really strange connection. Because I booked with Qantas points, this is the only way I could get a Qantas Classic flight reward all the way from Nadi to Perth, somehow via Canberra. So now we've got a short hop down to Canberra on the Dash 8 Q400. Got about 3 or 4 hour connection here in Sydney, so that's not a problem. Obviously had to clear customs and immigration, pick up my bags, recheck them all through and that. But yeah, we've got to fly to Canberra now. Then when I'm in Canberra, it's going to be a very, very short connection. So not sure I'm going to have enough time to do an intro there. So before I just do an intro here to be on the safe side. So yeah, enough about why I'm doing the intro here in Sydney. This evening we are going to be flying from Canberra to Perth on the once daily Boeing 737-800 service all the way between the nation's capital all the way to Perth. I've flown this one a few times before now. Did actually review it about 2 years or so ago now. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, really hoping for much the same pleasant experience. Being a Saturday night flight, hoping it's going to be a bit quieter than a weeknight flight as well. So yeah, it should be a really comfortable flight, I'm hoping. So without further ado, do check out the Q400 flight down to Canberra as well when it comes out on the channel if it isn't already out. Let's skip forward to Canberra. I'll see you there for our flight to Perth tonight. Should be a good one. Before we magically teleport over to Canberra Airport, let's have a look at the route information for our daily QF 857 service between the nation's capital and Perth. Freight circle distance on this one is 3,091 kilometres across Australia. Average flight time is 4 hours and 25 minutes. Gazetted flight time is 4 hours and 35, but tonight we're going to just do it in shy over 4 hours and 9 minutes. And just like that, we're making a fleeting visit to Canberra here. We just got off our Qantas Link Dash 8 Q400 flight from up the road in Sydney. The flight was actually considerably delayed due to quite a lot of severe thunderstorm activity around Sydney and also lurking en route to Canberra. Eventually we got off about half an hour behind schedule. But yeah, it was still an incredibly stormy flight where the seatbelt sign was left on the whole time. And the pilots decided to take a longer than usual route, quite long for Sydney to Canberra standards, to avoid the worst of the weather en route. If you're interested to see how that flight experience went in full, be sure to check out my dedicated flight review on that one, link in the description below. I've also done several other transportation reviews between Sydney and Canberra on the bus, train and also on Virgin Australia's Link Airways SAR 340 service, so be sure to check out all those on the channel as well. Anyway, back to tonight's flight, the last leg of a very unusual itinerary today, flying from Fiji to Perth with a stopover in Sydney and Canberra. Somehow that was the only way I could book with a classic flight reward redemption. The way things were going in Sydney with the really severe storms around, it was actually looking like quite possibly that I'd actually miss tonight's flight. But hey, if Qantas were to put me in a hotel overnight in the nation's capital, I certainly would have not been complaining to extend my holiday for one more night. But anyway, I land with only about 10 to 15 minutes until boarding for the next flight, which is a bit of a shame as I've linked this flight with a Qantas Club invitation, courtesy of Fungi Travels, a good mate of mine. And even more so, being so quiet late on a Saturday here, we're literally the last flight out, I actually only got the Qantas business class lounge open, so instead we're directed to enjoy this very impressive looking lounge. With as usual, the business lounges for Qantas usually are a decent step up from the Qantas clubs, and here in the nation's capital that is especially the case. Very spacious and definitely looks like some good food and drink on offer, which I guess is to be expected in the nation's capital. Got to keep the politicians and bureaucrats, at least those who are not already invited to the Qantas Chairman's Club, happy. Anyway, I might only have 10-15 minutes here, but still enough time to get a cheeky beer and take some time to charge my phone. At least I know our aircraft is literally immediately outside the lounge, so no need to rush to the gate. Anyway, talking of aircraft, which is docked at the very aesthetically pleasing and spacious Canberra Airport's Gate 11. Tonight we're flying on Victor Hotel, X-Ray Zulu Golf, a midlife Boeing 737-800, very much a stalwart aircraft of Qantas's domestic mainline fleet. This aircraft, at time of taking the flight, was approaching 12 years of age and has a very simple, straightforward history, as it was delivered direct to Qantas Airways in June of 2013 and has only ever flown for Qantas since. Anyway, we're out flight leaving at 8 PM, you might be surprised to know, but we are actually the last flight out here at Canberra Airport on a Saturday night. So as soon as our flight pushes back, the terminal is going to be all locked up and going to be completely deserted for the rest of the day, which is quite astonishing seeing the sun hasn't even gone down. But yeah, that's very much Canberra for you, where politicians and bureaucrats often travel into Canberra on a Sunday or a Monday and are usually quick to leave by Thursday or Friday, leaving mainly just average punters travelling on a Saturday, hence why it's so quiet here at Canberra Airport. Anyway, boarding is pretty well announced on time. It's looking like it's going to be a very quiet flight indeed tonight. Probably only about half capacity, I would say. And just like that, welcome aboard just one of the 76 Boeing 737-800 aircraft, by far the most predominant aircraft in the mainline domestic Qantas fleet. On board you'll find a total of 176 seats. Up the front there is a small cosy business class cabin consisting of 12 seats in a 2-2 configuration. At the back in economy there is a further 162 seats in a standard free configuration. Business class features those classic maroon leather recliner seats which come with 37 inches of pitch and a width of 22 inches. Meanwhile, in the back of economy, leg room is quite tight for full service carrier standards, just 30 inches of seat pitch with a width of 17.2. Whilst the seat could probably be better for Qantas standards, the seating itself is actually reasonably comfortable. Navy material seats with a nice adjustable headrest as well. At your seat you'll find a fold back tray table which is pretty sturdy and also extends out. The seat pocket in front has all the usual Qantas literature, including the in-flight magazine, air sickness bag and safety demo card. Approximately half of Qantas's 737-800 fleet have in-flight entertainment screens inbuilt. Others you're just relying purely on stream-to-your own device entertainment, and with some older ones overhead monitors as well. Anyway, for now, what better time to push back from the gate here on board the last flight out of Canberra Airport for the night, taxi out to the runway, and we'll enjoy some absolutely spectacular sunset takeoffs out of the nation's capital tonight. Then once we're firmly in there, well and truly on our way to tonight's maximum cruising altitude of 32,000 feet, a go over just what you can expect on board flying Qantas on the stalwart 737-800 across Australia, what the experience really is like in 2025. And just like that, after an absolutely amazing takeoff out of the nation's bush capital this evening, absolutely spectacular sunset views mixed in with distant stormy clouds. A little over a few minutes after the seatbelt sign goes off, she put back on due to some unexpected turbulence. To be honest, I was a little bit surprised the seatbelt sign went off at all so early on the flight, because it was a pretty turbulent takeoff, and yeah, you could definitely see it was a very unsettled atmosphere looking at the rain radar before the flight. Anyway, while we wait for our conditions en route to smooth out a bit and for our in-flight service to get underway, we'll be our time now to first take a look at the onboard IFE entertainment options available on Qantas on this particular Boeing 737-800 aircraft. As I alluded to before, about half of Qantas's 737-800 network have the built-in IFE screens, while others rely entirely on screen-to-your-own device entertainment, though some do also have overhead monitors. From my past experience, it's usually a bit of a lucky dip as to what exact entertainment setup you'll get, but as a general rule of thumb, you're usually more likely to get the IFE screens built in on international and longer domestic flights, such as our 4.5 hour flight tonight. Whilst I do suspect there may be a slight difference in available content on the IFE physical screens as opposed to the screen-to-your-own device entertainment system, if it's anything like the latter, Qantas advertised approximately 2,500 hours of movies, TV shows and kids content. From my experience, Qantas provide a good overall array of entertainment options, plenty of new release and evergreen movies, as well as plenty of TV content, particularly box sets. If you're into binge watching some of your favourite TV shows, there's also premium content from the likes of HBO, National Geographic and Paramount Plus. So overall, the entertainment options are good, though certainly not world leading. Certainly nothing like the likes of Emirates ICE entertainment system, for example, which is far more comprehensive. As I always say, I'm more of a real life TV and documentary sort of person, and yeah, pretty limited here on Qantas. So I still usually find myself loading up documentaries on my own MacBook to watch prior to the flight. These IFE screens also have a moving map, which I think are a little bit better than Qantas's stream-to-your-own device moving map. A little bit more comprehensive in my opinion, and certainly better than Virgin, who don't even have a moving map on their stream-to-your-own device entertainment. What I really don't like about these screens, however, is their lack of responsiveness. They're not very good touch screens at all, quite irritating to use at times. The good thing, however, is if you're not interested in the entertainment options available, all Qantas's 737-800s domestically in Australia have free, reasonably okay Wi-Fi internet. No special catches, no special status needed, no hidden charges or limited restrictions. Free to all, that's a great feature flying on Qantas. It's reasonably fast and pretty speedy as well. So here we're just doing a bit of a speed test, starting nice and easy, just checking the weather and the rain radar en route tonight. Looks like those conditions are improving after a very turbulent start to the flight. Moving on to something more demanding, let's check the latest news and see, yeah, it's taking a little bit longer to load, but yeah, for Wi-Fi in the sky, it's doing reasonably okay. Now we move on to the most ambitious test of all, that is streaming live TV mid-flight. Do note this might not be totally indicative of your experience on a Qantas flight, because the Wi-Fi speed is probably not just determined by the plane's connection with the satellite above and of course the speed plan that the airline purchases. As the busyness of the flight and how many passengers are exactly trying to connect to the internet and do highly intensive tasks such as this may reduce the overall bandwidth available. But on tonight's flight, where it's probably only about half full and maybe not too many passengers connecting to the internet at this point in time, live TV seems to work just fine, though with a little bit of occasional buffering. Probably does take about 10 or 15 seconds to finally get our channel to play. But yeah, once it starts playing, it works reasonably well. Except for, a bit of intermittent disruption while we're flying over the Great Australian Bight. So, good thing being a Saturday night, there's plenty of live sporting broadcasts, including the Australian National Basketball League. One thing I did notice was when I tried the same test on Virgin Australia when recently flying in business class, Foxtel would simply not work at all. With access denied, seemingly like we were geo-blocked outside of Australia even though we weren't, which was a bit annoying in my opinion. Also in terms of entertainment, there's also the Qantas in-flight magazine, which I still appreciate reading on flights, especially considering most other Australian airlines have now ditched the magazine. In terms of the Qantas entertainment app and stream to your own device, fortunately I forgot to test whether it was actually available on this flight, even if we did have the IAP screen. I think it would certainly still be beneficial to offer that choice to passengers, so let us know in the comments down below if you've been on a flight where both entertainment options have been available. Just before we have a look at dinner, let's have a look at our seating in more detail. So while the legroom is really quite poor on Qantas's 737-800, the recline is actually reasonably decent and there's an adjustable headrest. Having the whole row to myself tonight is really making for a comfortable flight tonight. Probably wouldn't be the same case if I was flying back from Melbourne or Sydney over to Perth. It'd be far more crowded. Anyway, on to dinner for tonight. Fortunately, I was limited to just one choice. Certainly not because the airline had run out of options, but unfortunately due to having a nut allergy. So this meant I had to go with the latter option, which was some sort of chicken salad with rice. Really not into cold meals, maybe some other people are, but unfortunately the other option really looked absolutely amazing. Was some sort of curry, but unfortunately it had nuts in it, so could not have it. But anyway, along with that we also served bottles of water and anything from our extensive selection of beverages, including soft drinks, tea, coffee, wine and beer. I opted for a white wine. I think it was a Sauvignon Blanc. Not a bad quaffer at all. Probably only about a $5-6 a bottle of wine, but yeah, I'm not really a wine connoisseur, so it tasted reasonably okay. What really impressed me about tonight's crew was when they came around to collect the rubbish from the meal service, they actually asked if I'd like to try the other meal option. I swear this has happened every time I've flown between Canberra and Perth. When I politely declined, explaining I would love to try it, but unfortunately I couldn't due to my allergy, they were very apologetic and went out of their way to find other snacks for me to enjoy, which I was very grateful for. Really enjoying the proactive service on tonight's flight. You're certainly not going to go hungry. The crew also are very proactive in coming around several times, inviting people to enjoy more drinks. So with such great service, how could I not back a cheeky beer as well? A Stone & Wood Pacific Ale, rather crafty and flavoursome brew. Also one that's quite sessionable, so good pick here by Qantas. Anyway, we're now about 3/4 away through tonight's flight across Australia, pretty well making it landfall over the southeastern coastline of West Australia near Esperance. So now would be a good time to check out one of the 3 onboard lavatories on the 737. One at the front left hand side for business class and 2 at the rear for economy. So yeah, everything you need in this lavatory, very compact, but yeah, kept clean and tidy throughout the flight. Got all your basic amenities as well, including a coat book and a baby change table. Anyway, now I'm back in my seat, not too much more to report about tonight's flight, other than it's been a very enjoyable and comfortable flight with great crew and service. So what better time now just to sit back, relax and enjoy our evening summer arrival into Perth tonight with some great nighttime views on approach. And then once firmly on the ground, I'll go over my final thoughts and feedback about tonight's cross-country experience between Canberra and Perth.
Please sit with your seatbelt unfastened until the seatbelt sign is off. As always, smoking, vaping and the use of e-cigarettes is not permitted while disembarking or throughout the terminal. Please take care when opening the overhead lockers as they will remain unmoved and will fall out. Before leaving, ensure you check your seat and seat pocket for any personal items. If you can't reach your phone, you can now turn off flight mode. On behalf of all of us here at Qantas and World, would you thank you for choosing to fly with us?
And just like that, it's great to be back at my home base here in beautiful Perth here in Western Australia. And that caps off a rather lengthy travel day, one of the longest yet I've done on the Aussie JetSetter YouTube channel. About an 18-hour day where we started off in beautiful Fiji earlier this morning. Then we flew over to Sydney on the Fiji Airways Airbus A350. Then we took our Qantas Link -8 Q400 down to Canberra, Australia's national capital. Then we're finally flown across the country back to Perth. Anyway, we're not just wrapping up a very long travel day. Tonight's journey marks the end of a very epic, almost 1 month long Australian summer travel series, which has produced dozens of brand new videos for the Aussie JetSetter YouTube channel. We started here in Perth almost 1 month to the day ago now, where we travelled over to the beautiful island state of Tasmania. We then flew up to Melbourne for the first week of the Australian Open. Then we caught the XPT train up to Sydney before we jetted off to beautiful Hawaii. We then continued on to the mainland of the United States, exploring a bit of California and Colorado. We then came back towards Australia with a 4-night pit stop in beautiful Fiji. And this trip very much has enabled me to review new airlines, new aircraft type, even visit new destinations and even a new country for the very first time. So plenty of exciting content has come out of it, of which most is already released on the Aussie JetSetter YouTube channel. So be sure to check out that. All the videos linked in the description below. Anyway, on to my thoughts on tonight's flight between Australia's national capital of Canberra all the way back to Perth. Really doesn't need much reintroduction. Long story short, it was absolutely sensational experience for economy class standards. Definitely going to be up there as one of my best ever Qantas flights. Everything really from start to finish, the experience at Canberra Airport was great. Not the big crowds of all other Australian East Coast capital airports. The Qantas business class lounge was really nice as well. We left on time, we arrived early. In-flight entertainment was good, the Wi-Fi was good. The flight was really empty, had the whole row to myself. To be honest, what made this flight really exceptional was the crew and the service itself. They literally came around offering me a second meal. When I politely declined because I had a nut allergy, they even went out of their way to find alternative snacks for me to enjoy. And they were always coming around to offer additional drinks. No need to hit the call button on this flight. To be honest, I've had worse service on Qantas business class flights. So there you have it, folks, amazing flight on Qantas tonight. If you have enjoyed this review, really appreciate it if you could just give it a like, leave your comments down below, smash that like button, share amongst your family and friends. And if you do enjoy my content, whatever it brings you to my channel, if you haven't quite got around to it, that's okay, but please be encouraged to do so and click that bell notification button so you won't miss my next flight review. Also check out AussieJetSetter.com for the latest in written flight reviews, industry news, destination guides, frequent flyer hacks and more. But from here at Perth Airport, thanks so much for watching tonight's review and my whole travel series around Australia, the USA and Fiji. But until next one, safe travels wherever that might take you.